Hey everyone, and welcome back. Welcome to the 4th episode of Kingdom Hairstylist. This is your host, and my name is Billie Jean. Again, I want to thank you all for listening to this podcast, and I want to thank all the people that have given me great feedback so far. And just to tell everybody that I'm so grateful and I'm so honored to be able to share things that God is placing on my heart to share with you all, because we all go through things, and then we all go through things for a reason. It's not to just keep it to yourself, but it's to help somebody else. It is to share your testimonies, and we all have stories, and we've all been through so many difficult things and tough times, and we've also been through great times and times of joy, and we just want to be grateful for all that God is doing in our lives. And so I just want to say thank you again. So today's topic is all about being a full-time mommy, a full-time wife, and a full-time entrepreneur. So I wanted to talk about what that looks like. So when my son first got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, it was January of 2017. So when I say that literally changed everything for me, it changed me as a person, it changed me as a mom, it changed me as an entrepreneur. And the reason why is because I had to really prioritize more than I've ever had to in my entire life. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how serious it was. And I didn't even know what I was up against. But baby, let me tell you, it was definitely something I didn't feel like I was prepared for. And it was definitely not something that I expected. So to tell you all how it all started, I was staying with my sister for a little while. And this was before I got married. And he was just so thirsty all the time. So I would buy like a case of 24-pack water and, some juice, maybe like the 3 for $5 or something like that. And it would all be gone within 2 days. Yes, I said that right. The water, the 24-pack will be gone. All 3 juices will be gone. So I knew something was wrong, but I wasn't sure what it was because I've only heard of type 2 diabetes. My mom has it, my dad had it, my grandmother had it. So I'm very familiar with type 2, but I was not familiar with type 1 at all. And so it really took me by surprise. So of course I made him an appointment, so we can check out and see what was going on. So the appointment that I made was for the next week. So the days leading up to when he was drinking all the water and the juice was like a week prior, and then I made the appointment for the following week. So I dropped him off to school on Friday, and the appointment was on Tuesday of the next week. But dropped him off to school Friday, and he was just complaining that he had a headache and that he couldn't see, and everything was getting blurry, and he just was like, you got to come back and pick me up because I can't stay in school like this. So I went back to pick him up, and, we went home, and I said, all right, well, you got the appointment on Tuesday. If you don't feel any better by the end of the night, then I'll take you to the emergency room. And he was like, okay. So he went to sleep. I don't think that probably was a good idea now that I think about it, but he was just like tired. So I let him rest. And then when he woke up, he was fine. He still was drinking a lot, but he wasn't like blurry anymore. His eyesight wasn't blurry, and he didn't have like the same side effects of the headache or any of that kind of stuff. So Tuesday came, and when we got to the doctor's office, and I love this pediatrician. She has been seeing him since he was about 3, and at the time he was like 14. So we have a great relationship with her. He loves her. I love her too. She's a great doctor. And so she was saying that, she was basically asking us what was going on, and we, I told her everything. And then she, when she realized that he lost like 12 pounds, that was like the first red flag for her that it was very, very serious. So I really couldn't tell that he lost 12 pounds because He's always been skinny, and the last time he went to the doctors was like in September, and this all happened in January. So I really didn't pay attention because he just kept getting taller. So it just looked like he was supposed to look like that. But that really wasn't the case. So when we got there, she realized that, and then she basically told us that she could not send us home. So to my surprise, I was like, oh my goodness, this is very serious. She was like, y'all have to hurry up go straight to Children's right now. Don't go home. So I went to Children's, we went there, and they checked his blood sugar and everything, and, did the vitals and all of that. And his blood sugar was 700. So I was like, it's supposed to be, between 70 and 126, or actually 180. Between 70 and 180 is what his blood sugar should be. It's different for a lot of different people, depending on your size, your height, and all of that. So 700. So I'm like not knowing what's going on. Everything's happening very fast. They're just moving around the room and, hooking them up to IVs, and everything just happening. And I'm still not sure of what's going on. And then, one of the doctors came in and, she was like, yeah, we checked his sugar and it's pretty high. So it looks like he has type 1 diabetes. And I just looked because I had no idea what it was. I knew that there were always, 2 types, but I didn't know what the first one was like. And so it was like devastating because it was just everything was just spiraling out of control. I'm just thinking that the boy just thirsty. I knew something was wrong, but I had no idea that it would be this serious. And so, he had to be admitted. He stayed in there for it it was only one night. And then the next day we had the classes. Now, I'm sitting here thinking that we just going, go home and maybe have to take some pills or something like that. No, it was nothing like that. This is where my life completely changed. I found out that, it's not curable, that you have to give insulin more than once per day, and you have to check your sugar, and you have to change the way you eat. Now, if you have a teenage boy, you know how hard it is to control the way that they eat because they're always hungry, especially a teenage boy that's growing through adolescence and, through puberty and all of that. So it was difficult. And so that is pretty much where my clientele kind of slowed down. And it's so crazy because God is so strategic. It's almost like he was like, yeah, I got to prepare you for what you're about to go through. So I'm not going to, crowd you with all these people on your books when you have to be home more. So I had to change everything. I had to change my schedule. I had to change being in a salon so much, and I had to put my son first. And that wasn't hard because I'm a mom and I've always been a mom. So that part wasn't hard at all. The part that was hard was making sure that I was doing everything right. Making sure that I wasn't making things worse. And then I was just so unsure about so many different things because even though we had that class that day, I still felt like there was so much that they were leaving out. I still felt like it was so much more to it other than just taking insulin and eating right. And I couldn't get it under control. Every time we checked his sugar, it would be high. And it was so hard because one number would determine how the day went. And so in the beginning, I had all this mom guilt, like it was something I did, to make him have it. And so now I'm giving him everything he wants because I feel bad for the situation. And, it was really bad. It just was so uncomfortable. It was difficult. And, as time went on, we got better with it. We knew how to proportion out the food better. We knew how to count carbs. We had to learn all of these things. We had to see a nutritionist. We had to, just change so many different things. I had to throw away all of the snacks in the house. I couldn't leave anything that would be tempting for him. And, then, so while I'm at work, I'm worrying whether or not he's checking his sugar. I'm worrying whether or not he's giving himself insulin. I'm just worrying about all of these things that I have no control over, but I do have control at the same time, because I can make sure that the things are not in the house that's going to tempt him. I can make sure by FaceTiming him, that I'm watching him give the insulin. But I didn't have control over him getting type 1 diabetes. And that was the hardest part. So being a mom, to a child with special needs and still trying to be a full-time entrepreneur was difficult, because now I'm losing a whole lot of money, but yet I have to spend a whole lot more money to make sure that he's eating right. So those things were so tough. And then, later on I got married. So now I'm wifing. I got to cook, more, because one child has diabetes, the other one doesn't. And then, the husband has to eat and I got to eat. And so it's tough. It's been tough, but it's also rewarding to know that God has equipped me to handle all of these things that I didn't even think that I was prepared to handle. And, some people say, well, I want to make an appointment with you in the evenings and, but your book is never open. And that's because I got to make sure that he eats by a certain time. At the end of the day, I'm still a mom. So my family comes before my business. Of course, I love my business. I love what I have. But I also love my son. And I want to make sure that he has everything that he needs. And it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm home and that I'm visible and that I'm checking the sugars to make sure he's doing it right and that he's giving himself insulin. I can't, depend on him to do it all the time, because sometimes you got to switch up the sites to where you give it. And those were all the things that I had to learn, because, they taught him how to do it and they also taught me, but they wanted him to do it. So he would, gain some independence and be able to do it for, whenever I'm not around or whatever the case may be. So I just wanted to share that with you all, because it's something that I went through and it's something that I'm still going through. And I don't always understand everything, but I trust God wholeheartedly. And I know for a fact that he didn't take me through all of that just to keep it to myself. And I know for a fact that somebody else is struggling and taking care of a child with special needs, and it's difficult because you're trying to run your business and you're trying to make sure that your children have everything that they need. And I just want to encourage you that with God, all things are possible. Everything that you can imagine and all the things that you're going through and all the help that you have is coming from God. But he's there. Trust me, he's there. I would cry and I would pray and be like, why is this happening? And I would just wonder why it had to happen when it happened, and, why this particular, autoimmune deficiency, why is this happening? Why is it not curable? And I just, instead of me focusing so much on the why, I started to turn it around and focus so much on who could I help, or to just basically thank God for going through it, but him still being there with me and him getting me through. Now, of course, I still pray over it every single day. I pray that his pancreas would just start working right now. I pray every day about it. But it's almost like Paul when he had the thorn in his flesh. He asked God to remove it and God didn't. And God told him that his grace was sufficient. So whenever I think about that story, I think about my son and I say, God, your grace is sufficient, because even though we're dealing with this, we're also still here. He's still here. He's still very much normal. He still can play sports. He still get up and go to school. He still get in trouble like a normal teenager, and he's doing pretty good with it. There's times when, of course he sneak and go off and do things, but for the most part, he's trying his best to keep his A1C at a great level. And I'm trying my best to still be a great entrepreneur. I'm still getting up, doing all the things that I have to do for my business every day. And I'm still making sure that before I go to work on those days when it's a long day for me at the shop, that I cook dinner, that there's something for him to eat when he get home from school, that, I'm going to be home in a decent amount of time to just make sure that he did everything, because he's still my responsibility because he's a minor. So I just wanted to share that, and I